Hey guys, welcome back. So I know it's been a few weeks since my last video. Apologize about that, but as you know, life gets in the way sometimes. However, I have been planning this video for some time and I'm actually really excited to be filming it right now. Over winter break, my family and I took about a week and a half long trip to the Florida Keys. It was a great trip, but as you know, when you're packing your tech items for a trip, you want to take those items with you that are going to enable you to do almost everything you do at home, but also allow you to travel lightly enough to where you're not taking 8,000 bags of stuff with you. And yes, if you know me, of course it goes without saying that I took some of my favorite bags by Aer on this trip, not a sponsor. So let's take a look and see what I am packing in my tech travel bag for early 2022. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we talk about all things tech, particularly those smaller tech items to help increase your productivity, streamline your workflow, and make your life easier. So whenever I'm traveling, no matter how long the trip is, there are 4 categories of products that I make sure to have in my travel bag. Those categories are charging, productivity, photography/video, and recreation. So the bag I use to take all this gear on my trip is the Aer Flight Pack 2 X-PAC edition. This was actually an impulse buy when we were in lockdown during the pandemic. It was my first true backpack from Aer, and it was one of those impulse buys where I saw it on the website, it went on sale, and it just looked too amazing to pass up because I know the X-PAC stuff sells out really quickly, but I've been extremely happy with my purchase. So this is a relatively new bag for Aer, but it's got all of the great X-PAC features that we've come to know and love, including the sailcloth exterior, which is extremely durable. It's got the YKK AquaGuard zippers, which prevent water from getting onto your devices. It's got that amazing orange interior lining, which makes it really easy to find those little things that can get lost inside a bag. It's also got tons of pockets, so you pretty much have room for just about anything you could imagine. I've never had a problem putting this in a bin, stowing it away, and then it's got a lot of easy access features such as this pocket at the top, which I put my headphones in. It's got this water bottle that is collapsible if you're not carrying a water bottle. And like I said, you can convert it to pretty much any configuration that you want, whether you're using it for business or for travel. I tend to use it more as a backpack, but this is an awesome bag and I highly recommend to get it. But I think the thing that I love about this bag the most is just its minimal look. It's just black. It's got the Aer tag that is not very noticeable. Other than that, it doesn't bring a lot of attention. So you could really pack a lot of expensive gear in here and no one would really know that you might be carrying a couple $1,000s worth of tech with you, which I kind of like. The other really cool thing about this is that even though it's very slim and can fit well in an overhead compartment, it's actually very expandable. I actually had no problem taking both my 12.9-inch iPad Pro and my iPad Mini, and I barely knew that they were in there along with all my other gear. And I did have a lot of gear with me on this trip, so you'll see in a moment exactly what I stored in this bag on the trip. All right, so let's take a look at the charging category. So the first thing I took with me, and this is actually a really recent addition to my arsenal of chargers, it's the Kovol Sprint Charging Mate. Now, as you recall, I made a video on this last month. The company was nice enough to send this to me, and this has quickly become the favorite charger that I own. It's a bit on the bulky side, but it makes up for that bulk with plenty of power. With over 120 watts, 2 USB-C and 2 USB-A ports, this thing has more than enough power to charge pretty much anything I can throw at it. And it was great to have on this trip because I could charge my iPad Pro, my iPhone, my kid's iPad, a laptop, a watch, pretty much anything. And I never had any problems with it kind of straining under the pressure or charging something too slowly. Even though it is a little bit on the bulky side, the nice thing is the cable's detachable, so you can quickly throw it in a pocket and not have to worry about it taking up too much room in your bag. And the other charger that I took with me, and you've heard me talk about this one before, this was actually part of my EDC, and it's also got a regular place in my tech emergency bag, but it's the Anker Powerport 3 Slim. Great thing about this charger is its size. It's basically a small square, but it's super slim so it can fit just about anywhere, yet it still has a lot of power. It taps out with 63 watts, so it's not going to be able to charge like, for example, a MacBook Pro and your iPad Pro at the same time and give them equal charging capacity. But it's great for things like phones, iPad mini, you know, a watch, pretty much any smaller tech items that you have with you. This is going to be great. And like I said, it's small enough to where you could put this in a tiny bag like my EDC that you saw from the other video, and it's going to be a great addition. Now, as far as batteries go, I took a couple batteries with me on this trip. Batteries are really essential to have, especially when you're on a plane. And the great thing about airports now is that you can pretty much find chargers almost anywhere. But when you're on a plane, you're running out of juice, you really want a powerful battery that's going to be able to take you through the rest of that trip. And the one that I've had for years and that I continue to use is the Anker Powercore Plus 2100. Yes, that's right, it's 20,000 milliamp hours. This thing is built like a tank. It's all metal exterior and it is heavy, but like I said, I've been using this thing for years. I've never had a problem powering up anything and it lasts forever. With this battery, it's got one USB-C and two USB-A ports, and with over 20,000 milliamps of juice, it's been a lifesaver in a lot of situations. Now, if you were going to say charge an iPad Pro from dead, it may take up this whole battery. But it's nice to know that you have that charging capacity with you if you just maybe need to top up your iPad to say like 20 or 30%. It's going to do that no problem. The only downside to this battery is it does take forever to charge it back up. You can charge it via USB-C, but it still takes at least 3 to 4 hours to get this back to full capacity from zero. Now, the other battery I took with me on this trip and that I'm going to be keeping in my bag, and please don't hate me for saying this, but it's the Apple MagSafe battery pack. Now, I know there have been a ton of reviews on this. I mean, I even made a video on it and I talked about the pluses and minuses. You know, the bottom line is it's a product by Apple, so it's going to be overpriced, but it's going to be really well designed. The thing I love about this is just that you slap it on the back of your device and you don't even have to think about it. It tells you exactly how much capacity you have left when you put it on your phone, which is really nice. It's really slim, so it can fit just about anywhere in your bag, not take up much room at all. And while it's not gonna probably charge your iPhone Pro Max back to full, it is gonna give you some juice. And as usual, I've got my MagSafe charging puck, which is great to have on your nightstand, so you can quickly get a charge off of that, especially if you're using the Kovol or the Anker Slim charger. And I've also got various cables, USB-C, USB-C to Lightning, even some micro USB if we come into a situation where we might need that. So I'm always bringing a ton of cables with me on any trip I go on just to make sure that my family has enough cables to where people aren't fighting over them. All right, so in the productivity category for this particular bag and on this particular trip, I didn't want to bring a ton of stuff with me because, you know, this trip was a fun trip. It was not a work trip. I did not want to even think about work, but when you own your own business, you're kind of forced to do stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that I had the device with me that was going to enable me to do the work I needed to get done, but not overburden me and weigh me down. So for that purpose, I decided the best thing to bring was my 2021 M1 iPad Pro. It's a great device to use for productivity, for working away from home. Yes, it doesn't do all the stuff like Final Cut and have some desktop apps that you can get on your MacBook, but I really did not want to bring my whole MacBook Pro with me on this trip. I wanted to be able to travel light, and my iPad Pro really enables me to do that. Of course, as always, with my iPad Pro, I had my Magic Keyboard attached, and basically this turns your iPad Pro into the closest thing to a laptop that you can get. This is a great combination. It is a little bit on the heavier side, but it really did not weigh me down, and it fits really nicely into the airbag. So I had no problems taking it with me, and it was easy to just connect it to either Wi-Fi, or it is 5G enabled, so if I was not near Wi-Fi, I was able to work remotely with no problem. So moving into the photography category, there are a few things that I always like to have with me on a trip because you never know what situation you're going to be in. It may be something where you just need to get a great still shot, or it may be something where you need to get an underwater video. You just really want to have all those tools with you to get the best shots possible. So the first device I'm going to have with me in the photography category is my iPhone 13 Pro Max. But as you know, this takes great photos, amazing videos. This is something that I always have with me, and they say that the best camera is the one that you have with you. So this goes without saying. It's definitely part of my photography category. The next thing I took with me on this trip is is the camera that I use to shoot most of the videos on this channel, and it's the Sony ZV-1. Now, I know this is not a fancy camera by any means. It's really aimed at YouTubers and vloggers and things like that, but for the money, this has been a great little camera. It enables me to do a lot of different things. Now, I'm planning on upgrading the camera in the future as the channel grows. For most applications, this takes great shots. It's got tons of features. The quality is amazing. It can shoot in 4K. You can hook up an external microphone, and you can also hook up an external lens to it, even though it doesn't have the same detachable lenses that more expensive cameras do. Another camera that I took with me on this trip, but didn't use a whole lot, is the Osmo Pocket 1. Now, I know that they have the Osmo Pocket 2, and I kind of took a look at it. I didn't really feel a compelling need to upgrade. The Pocket 1 is great. You know, it shoots in 4K. It's super tiny. I mean, I've got a case for this thing, but you can literally, if you're not worried about damaging it, it does come with a carry case, and you can stick it pretty much anywhere that you have room in your bag. It's a great little device to have with you when you want to shoot some quick videos. I took a trip to Europe a couple years ago, and this was really nice to use. I actually have the extension rod, so you can, you know, do some real up high shots that you could not normally get with a camera. So it's a super cool device, very easy to use, and it takes great shots. So it's something that I usually take with me on my trips, although I'm not using it as much as I used to. And the other camera I had with me on this trip, which unfortunately I no longer have, is the Osmo Action. Now, I really like Osmo products, and this camera was a great action camera to have. It did have sort of mixed reviews when it came out. I actually kind of compared it to the GoPro initially, but I like the features because at the time GoPro didn't have a camera with a front-facing screen on it, which the Osmo Action did. And I know that they've come out with the Osmo Action 2, which I have not had a chance to test out yet. Unfortunately, this camera, even though it claims it's waterproof, some water did get into the battery compartment and it is now dead. Unfortunately, the camera is out of warranty, so in order to fix it, it would actually cost more than it would to just buy a new camera. So while it is a great action camera, I would say if you do have this, make sure you've got the waterproof case for it. Otherwise, you might find yourself in the same situation that I'm in. But otherwise, takes great action shots, is a really cool underwater camera, and in those situations where you're doing stuff like snorkeling or snowboarding or biking, things like that, I think this is a great purchase, and I'm really interested to check out the Osmo Action 2, so that might be in a future video. And lastly, we're going to take a look at what I have in my recreation category. So the heart of my recreation setup for this year anyway is the 2021 iPad mini. Now, I know what you're going to say. Why did you bring two iPads with you? And I have a good reason for that. So as I said before, I took my iPad Pro with me, mainly to do work because it's got the Magic Keyboard. It enables me to have that laptop experience without actually bringing a laptop. Now the iPad mini is kind of in a category on its own. Yes, you can do some work on it, but it's really not designed for that. I really feel like this is the ultimate kind of consumption and creation machine. The screen is the perfect size to hold in one hand, or in my case, what I did is, because it's got this ESR case with the kickstand on it, I just put it on my tray table, and it enabled me to watch any movie or TV show that I wanted to while we were on the trip. So it's been a great device for that. It's much easier to hold than the iPad Pro. The battery life, while not great, is fine for most things. You know, it didn't last me a whole plane trip, but the nice thing is, since it is USB-C now, you can plug it in and it actually charges fairly quickly. And I think that's partly to do with the USB-C and partly to do with the fact that the battery isn't super big. So it's not going to be like the iPad Pro where it takes you a few hours to charge it up. iPad mini, if you hook it up to USB power source, you can actually charge it fairly quickly. The screen, while it's not OLED, is fine for watching movies, TV shows, what have you on it. It's been really great for that. Yes, the screen does have that jelly scrolling thing, but it's never really bothered me. You just kind of take it for what it's worth, and I have really fallen in love with this machine over owning it for the last few months. The next piece of my recreation setup are something that I did a video on just a short time ago, and it's my new favorite earbuds, hands down, the Beats Fit Pro. Now, previously, I would have taken my AirPods Pro with me on a trip, but I actually left them at home this time. I took the Beats Fit Pro because number one, They fit great in my ears, and I find even after having them in my ears for a couple of hours, they're not getting fatigued like they do with other headphones. Number two, they've got active noise canceling, and while they're not as good noise canceling as, say, my Sony XM3s, they still work well enough to wear them on a plane and you're not going to get a lot of external noise. And number three, they just sound amazing. I mean, I know everybody says the AirPod Pros sound great, but these things, I don't know how they did it, but they just made them sound unbelievable. They're so small, I can tuck them into the top pocket of my bag and not even know that they're in there. So I really love these things for their fit, for the sound, I think for the price, especially since they're $50 cheaper than AirPods Pro. Until they come out with a new model of the AirPods, I don't know why you'd buy anything else. Now, with the Beats Fit Pro, I did feel like I needed to bring a pair of over-the-ear headphones because, you know, when you're on a plane, especially if you've got the whole crying baby thing on the plane, people making noise, you want to sort of be able to relax, maybe take a nap, or just kind of get lost in whatever you're doing so you don't have to have all that external noise bothering you and you're just able to relax. The Sony XM3s, while they are a few years old now, are still hands down my favorite headphones with active noise canceling on them. Sony's actually made some software improvements over the last few years, so they're even better than when I first bought them. They still sound amazing. They are a little bit bulky to pack in this bag, but the fact that they have their own carrying case and that they can fold up pretty nicely is a great plus. And also, they get great battery life. Even though I've owned them now for a few years, the battery life has not really diminished. So I was able to use them pretty much for a whole flight, and I'm talking like 5 or 6 hours. And I never found myself needing to recharge them or just kind of running low on batteries. And the last part of my recreation setup is something that I bought a few months ago and didn't know if I would actually use it a lot or not, but it's actually been really fun to have. And this is the Backbone controller. The Backbone controller essentially turns your iPhone into a gaming machine. It snaps into your Lightning port and it enables you to play any games that are controller enabled, which are a ton of games in Apple Arcade. Lets you play things like Call of Duty. It's got an amazing interface. The nice thing about it is it's very compact, so it doesn't take up a lot of room. It feels very similar to an Xbox controller. I found myself using it quite a bit on my trip. It's really fun to just kind of relax, get some games to play off of Apple Arcade, and since I do have the Apple One subscription, I can pretty much download any game I'd like and use it. And it's nice to have with you when you're on a trip. When you've got some downtime, you can just pull out this controller, and it's got a headphone jack in it, so if you've got wired headphones, you can use those, or you can use whatever Bluetooth headphones you want. And it works off of the phone, so you don't have to worry about charging it, replacing the batteries. And for $100, I think this is really something that if you are a gamer, this is something that you should really add to your recreation setup, especially for trips like this. So I highly recommend it. So that is my travel tech bag for 2022, at least early 2022. I'm probably gonna change it as time goes on, as new products come out. Who knows what's gonna come out over the next year. So it'll be interesting to see how my bag has changed in the next 6 months. But I'm curious to hear what you guys pack in your travel bags. Do you have a travel bag? Do you have a setup that you like to use? Please let me know in the comments if there's something maybe you think I should put in my travel bag that I'm not using now. I love hearing about new tech, so let me know what you think about that. Really appreciate everyone who's taken the time to watch these videos, as well as all the new subscribers we've picked up over the last month. Now that all the holiday crap is done, I plan to post way more content, so stay tuned for that. Again, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.